Welcome, everybody, and another episode of Step Up Your Studio, the podcast that will provide you the blueprint for your continued success. And today, in the hot seat, none other than Courtney Ortiz. Now, for those of you that don't know Courtney, she is a dancer, adjudicator, performer, teacher. She's also the winner of the Young Arts Award. And you got to tell us a little bit more about that in New York City. Now, her professional career has taken her as a dancer, teacher, choreographer all over the world. If I told you every single spot that she's been to, that would be a 30-minute podcast alone. But some really exciting stuff that she has done. Broadway touring cast of Finding Neverland, Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights, just to name a few. But she is a terrific energy, a terrific resource, and most importantly, a terrific person. And Courtney, welcome to the show. And your resume is incredible. And thanks for carving out a little time for us.
Of course. I'm super excited for you to have this new podcast. Welcome to Podcast Land.
Yes, exactly. Now we're going to get into it. Courtney is a veteran of this, and we're going to talk a little bit about her podcast, and it's doing incredible service for the dance community. But let's talk a little bit about competition for a second. Let's talk because you go out many weekends, just about every weekend you're out there judging. And as somebody that comes from that jazz musical theater side, what is it that you're seeing out there that you really like?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of judging. I've been doing it for over a decade, and I absolutely love it. There's such great work that's happening out in our industry right now. Very unique styles that are hitting the stage, a lot of fusion that is hitting the stage these days compared to when I was growing up in the competitive dance world as a dancer. So it is awesome to see the creativity that a lot of the dancers and the choreographers are bringing. As far as jazz and musical theater, I feel like that we're seeing a new rise in jazz dance lately, I think, and it's almost like this new wave of jazz. There's some really iconic choreographers that are out in our industry now who are setting a great example, and I think a lot of people look up to the work that they're doing and are hoping to, be influenced by them and inspired by them. So I think that jazz is making a comeback on the stage at competition, which I love because I'm a jazz dance teacher and jazz dance educator. So I'm here for the jazz dance. And like for musical theater, I'm always happy when I see character heels on stage for some of our teen and senior dancers, as well as just creative character development and storytelling in the musical theater category.
Yes. So that's the good. Now, what's some of the things maybe you don't like that you're seeing out there?
Ooh, I mean, that's a hot take right there. I love everything that I see, but I think that some of the things that, we could continue to improve upon in our industry, as far as when it comes to what's presented on stage at competition, I think that there's a lot of people who feel like that you need every trick in the book to succeed with a competitive solo or even in a group, to a point where these quote unquote tricks, and I'm going to lump in acro tricks into that equation, are almost overruling the ratio of the genre that you're entering your dance in. So as a judge, if you as a studio are entering into a particular category, I'm hoping that 90% of that dance is under that genre. But oftentimes it is choreographed to the opposite almost, or maybe even a 50-50 split where it's half acrobatics, half lyrical, or jazz. So I think that those ratios are getting a little bit blurred, and it makes my job really hard as a judge to critique properly and also score it accurately when it's misplaced in the wrong genre. So for me, it's something that I would love to see choreographers go back to the foundational vocabulary of the genre that you're presenting and making sure that we're not overdoing it with the tricks that you think you need that you may not necessarily need. I want to see more dancing happening on the stage.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I remember back when I was judging that if you had more than one acro trick, you were automatically moved to another category, so that
Yes.
you couldn't have any acro. And unfortunately, in a lot of competitions, what's happening is that the numbers that have a lot of that acro in it are beating the just the regular dance numbers because not that the dance numbers aren't exciting, but when if you have some really good acro in there, that's really hard to kind of compare a really strong dance piece to. For
Mm,
me, I know, when I was judging, I always loved to see, because my background, to see a good strong jazz dance and have the acro be in that acro category. So I know
yeah.
competitions have been kind of really looking into, different ways. I love that, back when again I was judging, or having in the beginning when we were taking our students, it was gold, silver, bronze, and people actually got a bronze and they lived to tell about it. So it wasn't like the end of the world. And there were very strict guidelines as far as, everybody just went in, right? There was no beginner or kind of
Mm,
more recreational, whatever they want to call it, the competition. There's kind of two categories for that.
right.
And I think they should be more even stringent in the categories, that the competition should just say, hey, if you have any more than one acro trick, it's not in that, it goes into the acro or open category. And I think that would probably clear things out a little bit. How do you
Yeah.
feel about, it's always tricky, with the different kind of levels, right?
Mm,
Because, so I know in some of the social media platforms, you see a lot of the teachers get a little cranky about the fact that, they had their beginner kids in a category, and kids were in there, doing triple pirouettes and,
right.
grand jetés and layouts. And they're like, this it doesn't seem fair. What's your feeling with that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of feelings on the levels at competition. I think a lot of people are abusing them for a win. I think that it's very hard for our competition industry to set the rules for each level, and we're really trusting the studios to enter appropriately and truthfully. And I think that a lot of people just kind of make the decision themselves and say, well, these are my beginner dancers. Even though they train more than what the rules are stating to fall into that category, they would technically be intermediate. But to me, these are my beginner dancers because these dancers can't go up against my other dancers who train more, who are going to now live in the intermediate or advanced category. So I just think that people need to follow the rules. And if we actually followed the rules and we're honest and truthful about how many hours our dancers are training, if that's the guidelines in place for levels, then I think there would be less abusing. I know a lot of, competitions are trying to create skills that, are giving you an overall idea as to recreational level should only be doing a single pirouette versus intermediate can do a double or whatever the case may be. But who's policing that? I mean, it's too hard. Now we're going to take away, making choreographers have to structure around certain checklists when they're creating a piece of work, I think is also not really the best idea. It's going to limit our creativity and also prevent us from highlighting certain strengths that some dancers may be able to have and might want to pull out in the future. So, it's a fine line. I'm not sure what's the right answer and how do we fix this for our industry. I personally, if it was me and I had a comp, which I don't, but if I did, I would probably only have two levels, but I think that a competition is a competition. I think everyone should be competing against each other, especially in this industry now where there are a lot of different competition companies. So
Yeah.
by separating levels, we're now creating two or three mini competitions inside one event, and I think it should just be everyone against each other.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at, you do the best you can when you get out there, and the reality of it is that this is the way we've always approached competition. Look at, we love to win. I'm not going to lie. It is a competition. However, even when we won, nothing changed on Monday, right? We went into
Yeah.
class, everything was the same, and your anticipation and your expectation is the same whether you do really well or maybe you don't do that great. So it's a stepping stone. It's an opportunity to perform. And sometimes, as educators, I think maybe it's really important that we portray that to our students, because we want them to understand that's what this is about. Not the award's great and the recognition is great, but it's a platform for you to get out there and perform. And I think one of the things that competitions have done really well is really build on the production value. They've really
Yeah.
gone all out with a lot of what they do now with the backgrounds, the different backgrounds that they project, the production value that go in. I know, it's come a long, long way.
I mean, we're past the point these days of popping up a banner and
Yeah.
calling it a day. It is, I think that we have elevated the industry to more of a spectacle. And I do think that not only for the experience on site, but also for all of the viewers that are on the other side of social media. That's a
Yeah.
big aspect to our industry now. So people want to be able to have the cool photo with the cool backdrop and the lights and the this and the that. That's an additional expense for the competition owners to invest in, but it's almost now become an expectation when you do attend an event where there's needs to be a little bit more of the production quality and the spectacle aspect to it.
Yes, yeah, 100%, 100%. So let's now switch gears a little bit and talk about, I know, a topic that you're fairly passionate about because you experience this is choreography copyright.
Mm.
And for those of you that maybe are not familiar with what went down, Courtney happened to, and you can tell us exactly how you stumbled across this piece of choreography, but she saw a piece of choreography that was, well, hers. And it was being sold and portrayed as someone else's work. And she very cleverly took that particular clip and pasted it with her routine that she had in class, and was showing really what this copyright is all about. So
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about that experience and how actually you saw that piece.
Sure. So yes, it's been a journey. It's something that I never thought would ever happen to me, although I've seen this happen a lot in our industry, and I've actually even done podcast episodes previously about the topic with other choreographers who have caught people stealing from them. So for it to really happen to me, I was completely shocked. Never in a million years would I have thought. And a friend of mine happened to be scrolling on Instagram, and the algorithm showed a lot of, sometimes based on the content that you look at on your social media, they're going to show you other types of profiles that they might think you want to start following. And this video popped up, and my friend immediately heard the song and recognized the choreography. I think it was a timing thing too, because my choreography video was posted a few days prior to that. It's although the piece of work has been out onto the internet for maybe 6 months prior to. So that was kind of how it got discovered. And after that, I went down the rabbit hole of this particular individual who not just didn't only steal one piece of my work, but in the one that was discovered, but then a total of 4 pieces of my choreography. And these weren't full length works. These were just classed choreography that I would teach at Steps on Broadway or at dance conventions that I have posted on my YouTube and Instagram accounts that they were then teaching internationally at their own studio for profit in classes, filming it, claiming it was theirs, not mentioning me, not asking me for consent. And it been, come to find out, we opened up a huge web of, it was wild to see this all come to light, because about 15 different choreographers had their choreography plagiarized by this individual, used for about 5 years before eventually being caught. So I'm very passionate about this now because I think that this is a huge issue in our industry, and we're not just seeing this internationally. We're not just seeing this in the United States, but we are seeing this also in the competition space. And I think it's very relevant right now, and we need to talk about it more, I think, because the only way that things will change is if we talk about it. But a lot of people love to just kind of like sweep it under the rug and not try to open up this can of worms, but I think we got to open it. It's the internet is real, and we shouldn't be stealing people's intellectual property anymore.
Yeah, and I know that our nephew Ricky Hines was also impacted by this as well. So and there's always a fine line, right? Because we all learn from certain things, we take from certain things. When we teach at the conference or we do different things, conventions, we're going to share work, and somebody may extract a count of 8 there, a count of 8 there, and where is that line kind of? Where is it, right? Is it 4 counts of 8? Is it 2 counts of 8? Is it 6 counts of 8? Is it an entire
Right.
thing? And is the resolution to just make sure that if I'm going to use some of somebody's work, that I say this is choreographed by myself and whoever else is kind of doing it. Is it as simple as that? Or, does somebody have to reach out and get that consent? So I mean, what is your feeling with it? Because, I know people all over have taken they're looking for Britain. On the whole, most folks are looking for 2 counts of 8 to get them from this to this, right? They're
Mm,
stuck. Or maybe a count of 8 to fill in over here. And it's to a different piece of music, but
mm,
they tweak it a little bit and they use somebody's steps or sequence to get through it.
right.
So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
what's your thought on that?
it is a fine line, and I think that that we as an industry are still navigating what exactly that means to be able to define something as quote unquote stolen or plagiarized, or able to be submitted for copyright protections and things like that. I know there's a lot of research that is being done still to this day, in as far as the ratio and the limit. There's a lot of progress for music rights and copyright protection, and in every other art form except for dance. So I think that now is the time that we start analyzing this a little bit more and really dissecting what does it take, what does determine this. I think that there's a lot of factors. I'm not the person to say this is what it is, but I've thought about this a lot too. And in my scenario, it was very black and white. It was same song, same
Yeah.
part of the song, same exact choreography. I mean, it was just right there in your face. But
Yeah.
like you said, if there's instances where we tweak a little bit, or if we are using the same song but we're using a different part of the song, but you are learning this phrase or you're using this phrase, I don't know if it's even a duration of time. I mean, when I create, I'm creating to the music that I'm dancing to, especially choreography. I am connected to the musicality. So if you take that sequence and put it to another song, it's not going to be the same to me because I choreographed it to this particular song. And there might be musicality that has different dynamics or syncopation that wouldn't automatically just go to another piece of music. So that's, a little bit tricky, but I also do think that more consent we need to be asking for consent before we use anything. And I also think there's the other layer of, where did you learn this? Did I teach this to you and you think you can use it? Did I give you consent to use this? Or did you just see a video and taught it to yourself? That's very different to me
Sure.
because,
Yeah.
if you learned it direct from the source, then you at least learned it properly. You learned the details. There's a difference there besides teaching it to yourself and then adding it in. I don't know. I think we need to just talk about this way more because there are all these layers to this. When is it appropriate? And personally, I don't ever think it's appropriate. I think we need to be creative and create our own material and stop relying on others to do that. If you want to hire me to come and create a piece of work, that's my job.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't just take an 8 count or even 2 counts of 8 from my video and use it without even telling me. That's stealing to me.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I think, it's funny too, because, when you say about people, need to create, part of, I think, the impetus and the creative kind of flow is watching somebody else's work, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not even necessarily that maybe you copy it. Maybe, there's just even one phrase of it, or there's something within it that inspires you to create, right? That's,
Right.
I know, like whenever I go to see a great show, great choreography, you don't sit there copying it. You sit there, you see maybe one or two moves that you're like, oh, I really like the way that looked, or I like that angle of that. Sometimes it's just changing an angle, right? I mean, there's only so many ways you can do certain steps, but sometimes if you position it from a different angle, it can take on a whole new look. So I think, we need to, in many ways, look at choreography for inspiration. Now, I know, like at our conference this summer, there's going to be a lot of sharing of work with choreographers and teachers that are going to be there. But the understanding is that, you're sharing stuff that people can use, right? That they're going to be
Exactly.
able to use. But do we want them to take an entire combination and say it's theirs? No. No one should do that. And I think no one would be happy if they did it with their work, right? It's
Right.
that's the thing, right? Would you be happy if somebody stole your concept or your choreography and used it? No. The answer would
Right.
be no, and not, especially not giving you any credit for it.
And if we think back before the internet and YouTube and Instagram and social media and everything, like you said, we would watch performances and be inspired by it. There wasn't a way to revisit and rewatch and reanalyze, and you just took it in that moment and then created from that. But
Yeah.
there was no way to study a dance again because you didn't have access to it. It was a live performance. Now,
Mhm.
and with that, unless you learned it from the teacher or another choreographer or the associate or whoever, then I feel like there was more respect 20, 30, 40 plus years ago, pre social media, to one artist to another, where we did care about sharing information and we did care about saying the names in the rooms and keeping their legacy and their choreography represented to them. And no one was trying to take ownership. We wanted to share knowledge.
Yes.
And yes, we still want to do that, but at the same time, now that we have access to unlimited art and in free platforms and paid platforms, whatever it is, now we think that just because it's out there, we can use it how we want. And that's not necessarily true. This watching something on YouTube or on Instagram should just be like you were watching a live performance. Just because it's on a free platform doesn't mean that now it's free for you to take and use for your own gain. It is a very different layer to it now, because then you can revisit that video. You can study that video. You can think that you can steal that video and that you will never get caught. But I do think that everything catches up with people. And even for a lot of the competition choreographers out there that are being inspired by a lot of things they see on social media, I promise it will catch up to you, and it's happening more than we think.
Yeah, no, and that was spot on because yeah, back in the day there was you went and you watched live performance or you saw it on TV or maybe sometimes you could, DVD it on TV, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, you just watched it and it was a one-time deal. So, yeah, it's definitely more accessible now, but
Yeah.
people definitely have to, I think, be cognizant and aware of the fact that somebody created that and you can't really take it and say this is mine. And ironically too, this individual is from another country. So, he probably thought not in a million years how he
Right.
would get back to you. But the world has also, because everything's out there, everything is accessible.
And I do want to just mention that a lot of people, and I know that this is a podcast for dance lovers, so a lot of people are going to understand this, but it was interesting to see the general public react to this situation, because a lot of people will say you can't copyright dance moves, is what they would say. And that's true. You kind of can't copyright dance moves, but we're not talking about moves. We're talking about choreography, which is a sequence of moves that were strung together to create art, to connect to the music, to tell a story, to drive home the intention. So it's very different than a move versus choreography. We're using moves to create choreography. And yes, choreography can be copyrighted and also plagiarized. So it was definitely I thought it was common knowledge. I think that it's very clear that anyone can see, if you put it dance side by side, it's very clearly stolen. But it was interesting to see how we still had to convince the general public a bit more, even with proof, that choreography and dance deserve to be recognized under the copyright laws a little bit stronger than
Yeah,
how they
and
are
it's
currently.
and 100% true because think about it. What is music? Music is notes that are chords, and then they're strung together in a certain phrase and
Yes.
with certain intention, whether it be blues or jazz or funk or whatever. And look at now you have a piece of music. So you can't just go and take that piece of music, even though it's notes and chords. Yeah, we have pas de bourrées and grand jetés and pirouettes and all of the moves and isolations that go into that, but how you're going to do it's going to be different from somebody else. So no, and I know, very excited that you and as I said, our nephew Ricky Hines will be doing a session at the conference this summer, and very excited to announce that Courtney will be appearing at the conference this summer, doing some classes, doing a session with Ricky, going over choreography, copyright, and also doing some podcasts. So let's talk a little bit. We have one of the queens of the dance podcast world over here, so very happy to have her be part of it. Making the Impact, a dance competition podcast. So tell folks who haven't seen it yet what it's all about. And I'm sure after people that don't know about it are going to tune in to check you out. So tee us up with your podcast.
Sure. Yeah. So my podcast, like you mentioned, is called Making the Impact, a dance competition podcast. We are currently in our 6th season, about to end at the end of May, top of June is our wrap of season 6. We have over 200 episodes currently, and we release every Thursday throughout the competitive dance season from September until top of June. And this started, it's co-branded with my company called Impact Dance Adjudicators, and we provide judges to dance competitions as a staffing service. So we decided to add this podcast into the mix because as judges, we had so much more we wanted to say that we couldn't get out on just a 2-minute, 3-minute critique of competition. We wanted to get inside the mind of a dance competition judge. And we have a roster of about 150 dance judges that are located around the country. A lot of them come on as guests and record podcast episodes on different hot topics in the competitive dance world in roundtable discussions. And we've also branched out outside of just the competition world. So now we're talking about bridging the gap from competitive dancer to collegiate dancer to pre-professional to professional dancer. We talk about studio owners, struggles and help and teachers and all sides of the industry, dance conventions, dance competitions, you name it, we've probably covered it at this point in our time as in the podcast world. But we love it, and we have such great fans that support us and make this possible, and some great sponsors. And I know Dance Teacher Web, if you've listened to the pod, you've probably heard our Dance Teacher Web ads on the podcast as well. So stay tuned and listen for a little promo code over there if you give a listen.
No, I love it because, look at here's the reality too with it. I think both sides, right? Let's take it from the studio owner teacher side. It is, we want that feedback and we want those critiques. And it's funny because, a lot of it has changed through the years. You could be, a little more direct with some of the critiques. For me personally, I don't need, if the piece is 2.5 minutes long, I don't need 2.5 minutes of talking. I want salient pointers. I want feedback. I want what comes to your head. And sometimes I know when I was judging, sometimes I'm taking it in, and I may even say, I haven't said a lot because I'm just really loving what you're doing. I'm taking it in. Right now, I'm just really enjoying the moment. It's like anything, right? That you're watching and giving a live. It's almost like, I know dance is different than sports, but it's almost like one of my other passions is football. It's like you're on doing a broadcast of a play. You don't have to
Yeah.
say, okay, he snapped the ball, he's stepping back, he's handing it off. You don't need to give us a whole breakdown like that. This is just my opinion for judging. I just want hitting points, bullet points. I'm that type of guy. Some people I know maybe like more talking. I like more to the point, bullet points throughout, a little summary at the end, and I'm good with that. That's
Yeah.
my opinion as it. What do you feel as far as a judge? And I love that you're with what you're doing with the judges. So you're training people on how to become judges, and then supplying competitions with the judges.
So we do have a training. It's an optional training. We actually consider ourselves more of pre-screening judges. So
Okay.
we want people to come to us who think they have what it takes to be a dance competition judge. Some people are brand new to it. Some people have been doing it for forever. But if you are a natural and you have what it takes to know how to keep that stream of consciousness going and having knowledge in a variety of styles and can articulate that very clear and precise in audio commentary, as well as in a proper tone that doesn't sound too harsh, that is supportive to the dancers, then you may have what it takes to be a dance competition judge. And it's a very, very hard job. Every single competition has different expectations to what they feel makes a great judge. And we have a very high standard as well these days because of the rise of the industry and the high expectations from the competitions. Everyone says they want the judges to just talk. make sure there's no dead space is something we hear all the time. But we, and a lot of our judges, we like to take it a little bit further. We don't want you to just call out corrections. We want you to actually give some helpful tips from your training and maybe give those light bulb moments on, look at this, think about this imagery, or think about this visual on how to achieve this, or I would love for you to work on this exercise so you can then apply it to your jumps, or whatever it is. Like digging deeper with the feedback that you can actually take back into the classroom and implement versus just calling out what you see. Great job with that leap. Oh, make sure you stretch that leg. Oh, higher releve. It's like, okay, yeah, we know that. We can see that. So how do we fix that? And I think that's our judges apart from many others. But at the same time, I think what's been great is we've kind of elevated the industry a bit through IDA to have a higher standard and expectation for quality critiques. And it's really important as well when it comes to scoring for your critique to back up your score. So you can't take off points and then your critique be completely empty and didn't say anything about your performance, but you docked points on performance. So, hopefully everything aligns and matches up when it comes to what you're getting at competition with critiques and scores. And we're trying to continue to heighten the industry with our judging service.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because I know I've gotten, we've all, I think, received critiques and then scores that didn't necessarily match up. So folks that are listening to the podcast, they're like, "Ooh, I want to become a judge. I want to do that." How do they get in touch with you? Where do they go? What's the website?
Great question. So we have our judge submissions open every August 1st, and we do not take submissions year round because we just don't have the time for that. We have a very limited window when you can apply to become a judge, and that is August 1st every year. The submissions stay open till about mid-September, so you have about a month and a half to apply on our website, and our website is impactdanceadjudicators.com. It's a long one.
Say that one more time.
impactdanceadjudicators.com.
Okay. So yes, go there if you have an interest in doing competition. And Courtney will tell you this now. I've not done judging in probably maybe 12 years now, maybe even pushing 15. That it's not easy, folks. For those of you that want to do it, you sit there for a long time. And you have to stay, as she said, you have to stay present. It's not easy. It sounds like something that would be a lot of fun, and it's enjoyable, but it's not easy.
Yeah. It's not. It's we get to sit there and be inspired and watch amazing dance for many hours, but let's be real, we're also human. And to sit for 12, 13, 14 hours with your brain going a mile a minute, plus keeping your voice talking. I know people that lose their voice. I know people, you know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, it's very hard. Even just sitting for that long of a period of time, like my back starts to hurt.
I mean, sitting is like, it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. But if it's something, look, I don't want to throw water on anybody out there. If you want to be, dip your foot into the world of being a judge, go for it. So impactdanceadjudicators.com, or starting August 1st, you can go to that website, upload, and what will they need? It's headshot, bio, what do you want from them?
So we have 2 rounds of our pre-screening process. The first round is just an initial submission. So we are looking to see what your experience level is like, if you have any certifications, resume, bio, experience behind the judging table, experience as a dance teacher, or experience as a professional. So we are looking for those things, as well as referrals if anyone referred you over to us, and we review that for round 1. After that, if we think that you have what it takes, we'll pass you over to round 2, which is our lengthy pre-screening process. And that goes way more extensive detail, as well as critiquing multiple styles of dance to see how your critiquing style is. And one of the cool features as well is that we can see the judges while they critique it. So they're on a webcam while they do it. So we can also get a feel of who they are as an individual, their personality, their judging style, their mannerisms, their tone. All of that goes into play in the selection process and they also score as well.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool. All right. And as far as your podcast, I know you have a page on Facebook. So people that want to tune in, are you on iTunes and all of that as well? So folks can go and listen to past episodes.
Yes, like I said, we have 200 plus episodes and there's so many topics to cover. We have a Facebook community. If you'd like to join it, it's called Making the Impact, a dance competition podcast community. So you can go on Facebook and you just have to answer a few questions to join our group. As long as you are in the dance world, we will let you in. We post every new episode as well as have a lot of fun conversations over there about the competition dance world. And you can also listen to our podcast on any podcast platform, but we love Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, Spotify too. Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. So as I said, we're also very happy. Courtney will be at the Dance Teacher Web Conference and Expo the first time this summer,
I can't wait.
teaching classes, but she's also going to be doing some podcast spots over there. So who knows? You might even get a chance to see one of her live podcasts happening right there on the spot. It's going to be a blast having you out there. I know we're very, very excited. Anything that you want to say to the folks before, for those that are coming to the conference and going to be taking your classes?
Ooh. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to be a part of the Dance Teacher Web this summer. So thank you so much, Steve, for inviting me, and to Ricky for connecting us.
Yes.
One of the greatest things out of this whole choreography scandal that has come out of it has been some really great new friendships, and Ricky was one of them. So I'm very grateful to him and for you to invite me. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm thrilled to be a part of the Dance Teacher Web conference this summer. I'm going to be teaching some jazz progression classes because I do think that's an essential part of every jazz class that oftentimes gets overlooked, or there's not enough time in class to actually utilize these days. But anytime I teach a class, I am always doing some type of across the floor. And I think that's really where we as jazz dancers learn how to weight transfer, directional change, work on our technique, travel through space, find groundedness in our movements. So I'm going to be giving a lot of variety of how to do that for a variety of ages and levels across the floor, as well as a standard jazz class with some choreography, different things that I'm looking for that I want to see in jazz dance more often, that hopefully teachers can take back into the classroom as they start their next season, and not forget about those triplet steps and pivot turns and pas de bourrées that might seem basic or old school, and how do we bring them to 2025 and make them fun and refreshed and cool again? I'm here to help make that possible.
Well, I'm ready to take her class, folks. I don't know about you. Let's go. Let's
do
go.
it.
Wrap it up.
I know
and
you.
Let's go.
I want to see you triplet across the floor, Steve.
I'm there. I'm so there. Well, Courtney, thanks so much for carving out a little bit of time for us. Thrilled to have you on our podcast. And folks, you got to come check out her classes this summer. Check out her podcast. Fantastic work. You heard the website. If you want to apply to become a judge, you know where to go. Courtney, thanks so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you this summer.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and congrats on the new podcast.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.